Hi, I'm Gabby and welcome to Brave Talks. Today's Brave Talks will be about what it's like to be a woman in a technology role and how we got into those roles. So, first of all, I'd like to know what it was like growing up as a woman in your culture and what that meant. For me personally, growing up in England as a cis white female, I had it a lot easier than a lot of other people. However, there are still certain expectations on women, and there are, especially when you come from a more deprived background, there is a lot of backlash against doing well. So if you do well at school, you're a swot. If you don't do well at school, you're dumb, and it's, there's a lot of social expectations on women as well. I don't know how, but I managed to fall into a very female-oriented role through personnel and payroll and admin work. But of course, you three are all in tech roles. So I'll start with you. What was it like growing up for you in your culture?
Well, I was born in Dhanbad and I was grown up in a very small town in India called Jamshedpur. Though I had an amazing pair of parents, like they always supported me in and out. I'm the only child, but yes, of course, in my culture, or I would say, a technology or being good in studies is plays a very important role in modeling you up for the future aspects of your life. So yes, there was pressure to do well in studies, to be the good girl, and I got introduced to tech at a very early age. I'm like when in our 10th and 12th grade, there is a requirement to clear some of the certifications and I would say exams to get through good colleges. So there was a kind of, if not from the family, but it was the surrounding, because everybody was studying, so everybody was making sure they were going for extra classes, coaching. So definitely that kind of pressure was always there. And then I was introduced into like taking up a technical degree. I did my engineering from Bangalore, and then that was the introduction. That was, I would say, I've been in this technical factory for more than a decade now.
And yeah, so your life's kind of geared you towards this from the start.
Yeah. It's just like get the good grades, get into a technical role, get to something which will be a stable. It's a terminology, isn't it? It's like it's a more stable way of you can grow a versatility sometimes is challenging. I mean, getting into creativity and getting that creative into a role takes somebody more a different angle, but technical is more understanding where you can grow. So, and I was into it, so it kind of attracted me as well. So that's how I moved in.
Yeah.
Cora, do you want to? Sorry.
No, I was just going to say, Cora.
So my name's Cora Alert, and I grew up in a very diverse family. It was just a rule: you're going to uni, you're going to do good in education. You can be whatever you want to be, but just make sure you're good at it.
Yeah.
Our house is quite competitive. A lot of maths games, like word games, Scrabble, all that kind of stuff. Whatever we did, it was always sort of teaching you something.
Yeah.
And so my dad actually used to work for the same company that I currently work for a long time ago, doing computers. He was a computer analyst, or that's what they called it at the time. And he was always, he's got it on his wall to this day, certificates of all his engineering achievements and things like that, and he was so proud of it. And he just told me that whatever you do, just make sure that you can show something for it, you're comfortable with what you're doing, and that you can always build upon it. So technology for me was that space where you can always grow upon it because it's always changing.
Yeah.
I grew up in West London in a very multicultural environment, so it was very diverse. I had friends all over, and being a woman culturally, it was fun. I feel like through my education and through sort of school, my younger years, being a woman was fine, no issues. It's when I got into work that it became a problem. So, being in technology as a woman, I was often the only female in the room, often the only black female in the room, and whenever I would say something, I'd always have to work 10 times harder than the guy next to me. That's what it felt like.
To get the same level of respect.
Yeah. I wouldn't really say respect. Just weren't heard as much.
Yeah.
You were just sort of, I feel it felt as though you didn't know as much. And so you had to prove it. And that was a little bit hard. Especially the sort of problem solving part of technology. When I first got into technology, I was sort of doing like the admin side of it, the training side of things, so training people how to use the tool, not necessarily using it. And I think that it became much more difficult when I moved into the more sort of problem solving area of technology.
So, Aisha, what was it like growing up as a woman in your culture?
My culture. So my name is Aisha Yusuf, and I grew up in Nigeria, Ogun State, Nigeria. It's very close to Lagos.
Yeah.
And most people know Lagos, but it's a different state. I grew up in a majority black environment, so I did not grow up in a diverse environment. It was when I started using the internet that I met more people from all over the world. I'm the first of 4 girls.
Oh, wow.
So my dad is the firstborn. So he's the firstborn of his parents, and I'm his first child. And it was fine. Also, like her, I was fine growing up being a woman. My dad is very education oriented. So my dad's a professor. My mom is a lecturer.
Oh, wow.
So my house is very academically oriented. You go to school, you get good grades. If you don't get good grades, you sit down with the parents. You have conversations about why you're not getting good grades, and then you do it again. Also, like Cora, just be good at whatever you do. So if you want to be an artist, be good at it. So my parents are very just excel kind of people. It wasn't until when I got to my 3rd year of university that I knew that being a girl was a thing. Like it wasn't just like, just being a child. Because people would tell my dad like, oh, you don't have a boy, but it's fine. Your girls are excelling in what they're doing. And then I and my sisters were confused, like, this isn't a thing. My dad doesn't wonder why he doesn't have a male child, because, we are all very good children, because that's how it's supposed to be, just be children. And then when I found out that, being a girl was a thing in my teenage years, it was a revelation to me. And I was about 17 when I found out this. And I appreciated the fact that my parents created an environment for us not to feel like being a woman or growing up as a girl is an issue. Until now, I still face these comments from people, but my house is a very safe space. And that was how it was like growing up.
Yeah, so it sounds like everybody's had really supportive parents.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I will definitely, I feel when we are talking, it is like in the beginning of our life, when we have a very supportive atmosphere, it helps us to come up our own, a challenging lives later on. Because if you have a very, very supportive environment when you're growing, your parents are supporting you to be what you are, endorsing your potential, always being there in situations where you are in, during studies, when you're working hard, you always want somebody to, you can do well. And that helps. And I would say that helps you to how you come up in later on in your life. Like in women in tech, it's all about confidence and how you came up. It's definitely it's step by step a process. But I think parents and how you started it plays a vital role.
Yeah, supportive families definitely important. So you were saying about how your parents have both been incredibly supportive, but in a wider social thing, it was like, oh, well, it's okay that you don't have a boy because you're girls. Did that make you feel less, or did it make you just more determined to succeed, or?
So I remember a particular incident. So I was trying to do something very technical, like change the switch or something.
Yeah.
And there was someone from outside our family in the compound. And then he goes, you should have been born a boy. And I was, at the time, it was, again, very confusing because this is not the environment I grew up in. My parents have never made a comment saying, oh, I wish I had a boy. We do everything in the house, just like chores. You get assigned a chore, you do it. There's nothing like, oh, you should have been a boy, you should be able to do this, or you need a muzzle or something. There's nothing like that in my family. So when this guy comes to the house and makes this comment, I was surprised. But I have never at any point felt like, oh, I should have been a boy. Because again, like Shami said, when you have supportive parents, this is the environment that you've grown up in, and they build your sense of self. So when other people come, I mean, of course, this wasn't a repeated situation, so maybe that was why it didn't affect me as much, because the repeated situation was my parents not making me feel like I should have been born a boy. So I had a very strong, I still have a very strong sense of self. I have a very strong sense of self. I have never at any point felt like I should have been a boy. So it wasn't. I've never felt that.
It sounds like for some people, gender roles are still a major thing, which is again works against us in tech sometimes. So you were saying that you were training people up. You were training people up in tech in a previous company.
So in the previous role, I remember there was a team of 8 of us, and I was the first of the 8 people to join that team. It was a new team, and we was using this new piece of technology, and it was something that was going to be rolled out across the department. So I was given the role of learning how to use it, training it, maintaining it, that type of thing. And over time, everyone that I was training was being promoted. So I thought, okay, this company's great. They are giving people opportunities, because every 6 months, literally, someone would be promoted. So I started to go for this role, and I would never get it. And I was like, okay, what am I doing wrong? I went home, had a conversation with my family. My mum and my dad, supportive as they are, they would just say, well, is there something that you're not doing? Is there something that you need to train up on? Maybe you need to have a conversation with your manager and see if what you need to improve on. So I did. And I expected him to say, you need to do X, Y, and Z. And he just said to me, no, the reason why is just because you don't fit the culture. And so with my young self, didn't really know what that meant at the time, really, because again, I grew up in a very diverse environment, so being a woman was never really a thing. Like, you just was yourself. So I sat on it for a little while, and then I remember 6 months later, another guy came in. I trained him. He became promoted, and I was just like, "What's going on?" So I had another conversation with the manager, and he just said, "I said, what is it that I don't fit into? Because I'm in this team. I've been in this team, and everyone who's been promoted, dare I say it, know what they know because I've taught them how to use the tool." So he's like, "No, we think you're really, really good in this role. We just don't think you could go to the next level because the guys go out on conferences and sports events and rugby and things like that." And I was like, "Well, so
how does that affect the job you do?"
So I just decided that I was just going to keep pushing and just keep trying, because my mum always said, if you just keep trying, if you fail at something or you feel that you're not good at it, you just keep going and you just show people that you can do the job. So I did that, and eventually it just became clear that this was not the environment for me. And so I decided to move on, and I was really fortunate. I went to a broadcasting company, and I met a guy from Ghana who became my manager, and he took me under his wing, and he taught me everything I know to this day, and I will thank him for it, because even now we still have conversations that he teaches me. And he taught me things like HTML, writing SQL codes, just using CRM tools, various CRM tools, and building complex campaigns and managing stakeholders, and putting me in situations that I thought I could never really handle, because I was always sort of groomed in a way to not be able to do it or think I couldn't do it. So, I was fortunate enough to be given the opportunity to learn what I know, which has got me to where I am now, by somebody that didn't look at gender. He just looked at the person. And if you had the interest and the ability and the skill and was willing to do it, then you're the person for the job. That's it.
He sounds like a really good mentor and ally.
He still is to this day.
It's so
I could say his name
important,
now, I would, but I don't want to embarrass him, so I won't do that.
No.
but he knows who he is, and I hope he sees this one day, because I have to thank him for where I am today. My mentality, my drive, my thought process, my fear of not knowing how to do something when all it is. I remember you said one day that it's just problem solving.
Yeah.
You know, technology is just problem solving, and it is just that, and anyone can do it.
Yeah.
So I'm lucky enough to have had a not so good experience, but had a good person that gave me the opportunity to grow and to become confident. So
yeah. So you think you've learned from that negative experience to
definitely
to be able to self-promote more and to combat those attitudes. So rather than think, oh well, you know, they want a more masculine environment, it must have really sort of opened your eyes to, no, that doesn't matter. That's not. It doesn't affect how I do my job.
absolutely.
So it seems like you've become a lot stronger for it.
Absolutely. I just look at people for their authentic self, and if you're good at something and you have the skills and you have the ability and you want to do it, then I will just support you no matter who you are.
Yeah.
And treat you how I would want to be treated, or how I wanted to be treated, which was just to be listened to, given the opportunity, whether I fail or succeed, just be given a chance.
Yeah.
Because that company many years that I worked for, just, you know, if I stayed there, then I wouldn't go anywhere. And when I think back, actually, all of the ladies that were there were in PA roles, secretary roles, admin roles. There wasn't anything that was technology. That was just like unheard of. So I feel really lucky, actually. It's taught me a lot.
Yeah. So I know you had an interest in transfer into tech. So do you want to tell us how you got into tech?
It's a very funny story, and it's a story that I think will stay with me for the rest of my life. So I have a younger, I mentioned earlier, I'm the first of 4 girls.
Yeah.
My immediate younger sister, she went to uni, studied computer engineering. She's very tech oriented, and again, because we grew up in a house where nothing is segregated by gender, nobody ever went to her and said, oh, you should not be working with computers or anything like that. But because I had gone first into the world, and I've witnessed seeing all this like gender segregated roles, I imbibed that mentality that only guys could get into tech. It wasn't consciously, it was subconsciously, definitely. And the day that I first realized it was when I went to see my sister in uni. She and a couple of other girls, about 3 or 4, were the only girls out of about 50, 60 students in a public university in Nigeria. And they were doing very well, but you could tell like the general mentality is that girls don't go into this course, only guys go into the course. But these girls were doing very well in the course, and the guys were also doing very well. But because I had also ingested a mentality that only guys could excel in tech, I thought in my mind that I would never understand what goes on in this world. Like whenever my sister is writing codes, I just go sit down with her and like, what are you doing? What exactly are you doing? Even though I could see that she was doing this thing and she was doing it well, I still had that subconscious mentality that only guys could do it. And I think it goes back to like when you grow up in an environment, even though you see people doing something, because if you imbibe that mentality, it might be difficult for you to believe what you're saying. Like you can see clearly that women are in this role, but you've grown up with this mentality, and a part of you doesn't even believe that this could be possible when you can clearly see it. So my sister, when I finished my MSc in clinical biochemistry last year in November, I was bored and I wanted to do something challenging. So my sister recommended that I, take up a course, just do basic introduction to web development. And then I stumbled on Code First Girls, which is an initiative that gets women into coding, because there's this misconception that women should be geared towards non-coding aspect of tech.
Yeah.
So things like UI, UX, or project management, or anything that's non-coding. And it's fine, women should go into this field, but it should not be the only aspect of tech that is sold to women. Like, oh, you can't possibly write codes, or you can't excel with writing codes. So when I joined TFG, we're taught by other women to write basic HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and it was fun. I was having fun. I was enjoying it. There was no pressure. And then I saw the Code First Girls degree. It's a nano degree where, like a boot camp, where you go in, you learn all these different languages for 3 months. It's very intense. And then I applied for it. I did not know that I was going to get a call back. Did not believe I would get a call back. I got called back. I attended a meeting with Aiden, Paul, and Lydia. It was really fun because I was so nervous. And then I told them, that, I'd initially thought that I would never be here. And this is a span of like November, December, January, February. I had the meeting with them in February, and I had written my first line of code in November. So that's a very fast, steep journey. And so that kind of encouraged me, like, oh yeah, this is something you could do, because all you have to do again is problem solve. So I would disturb all of my friends that were in tech, all of my friends, my sister, because again, I want to learn, and it was fun. It's not restricting. Why should men, or why should anybody that presents as a male be the only one that should enjoy something like this? And then I graduated from the degree. It was very difficult, lots of crying and happiness, and very encouraging teachers. We had 2 female instructors and a male instructor. So it's very, again, nobody's saying you can only do this because you are a man, or you are only doing this because they want to level up anything. It's just you're having fun and you're getting taught by different people, so both men and women, non-binary people. So yeah, I graduated from it and joined Exile.
So from coming from somewhere where it's just a general belief that women can't go into coding tech, to actually coming in and doing coding and tech and excelling at it, that's amazing. So do you think there's still a overall permeating assumption that men are better at tech than women, and that's why as women we have to prove ourselves, whereas it's generally accepted that a man can do the job? Like sometimes for a guy, it's other people in the room will assume that guy can do the job until he messes up, but we have to prove that we can do that job. Do you think that there's still this huge idea that tech is a male thing, and or do you think that's breaking down now with?
100%. I mean, for me, my experience is I got where I am. That's really good. But the next challenge is when you're in a room with a whole bunch of guys that are tech savvy and have the same skills as you. And I have a good example actually where this guy wrote some code and it was this long, and I wrote some code and it was this long, and it did exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
And he was sort of saying to me, oh, but you need this, and this. And I was like, okay, that's cool, but I've done it this way and it does exactly what yours is doing, so why do we need all of this when we can just have this?
Yeah.
Teach me.
Yeah.
And I'll teach you why I'm not doing all of that.
Yeah.
And it's for the time saving, the autonomy. So I'm not having to write all of that. The difference of his code is that he had to write it over and over again, whereas I wrote this much and just tweaked a couple of things every time I wanted to do a new report. And so it was a little bit tense because he felt a little bit undermined.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could see that he wasn't too happy. And my idea was the idea that was eventually used, and I say eventually is because we went through a whole rigmarole of why we should use this code and why we shouldn't, and it was purely just because he didn't want his code not to be used. It was that simple. We became really good friends afterwards, actually, but that's just a good example of the challenges that you have and that I had, and it was just like unheard of for me to challenge the gurus or the goats idea, with something that did exactly the same thing, just in a different way. And that was a challenge that I had for a little while.
Have you learned from that? Is there anything that you could take for other women to say when you're faced with this in a room? Don't be discouraged. Like, this is how to deal with it and how to.
Yeah. I mean, I think that you can't help feeling discouraged sometimes, but I think the approach would be to test and prove.
Yeah.
If someone doesn't believe in what you're doing, then prove it to them.
Yeah.
And that's what I had to do.
Yeah.
It took a while, but that, and I think that doesn't just stand for women; it stands for guys as well. But that's the concept that I use when I have those challenges. Even to this day, I just test and prove, and if it works, then I've done my job. That's it.
Yeah, I'm like that. If I ever get questioned, I'm like, well, there's the evidence.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But also open to their ideas, not
Yeah,
dismissing
yeah.
it, but just showing that there are two people in the room that can be just, we can be just as good as each other.
Yeah, you just have different approaches.
Right, instead of challenging, just collaborate. That's
Yeah.
it.
That's a really good point.
And
Yeah.
I think this is what I was actually absolutely correct. This happens with time.
Yeah.
In the beginning, if this kind of situation happens, you self-doubt, am I doing it wrong? But with time, you understand, or you understand, first of all, you have to prove your point. You have to. Secondly, extra pair of eyes actually improvise the quality of your work.
Yes.
So you have to look at the positive and the negative bit of it. It's like, go with a pinch of salt, you will be questioned, but extra pair of eyes will improvise the quality of your work. So yeah, I mean, in the beginning stages when you are, like in the early stages of your career, and you're the youngest, maybe in a team of, apart from the gender, but you might be the youngest as well. And in my case, I was more introvert as well. So it was like, I have ideas, like, should I not say?
Me
But
too.
crossing that barrier, no, you need to speak out. You have to. If it's a point, it will be for the good of the project or any application or something you're designing. Speak it out, because it takes time.
It does take time.
It takes time, but it's a continuous process. You have to go on for a while.
Yeah.
And I think today I feel very encouraged looking at you guys, looking at other girls and the women in tech, and they are actually there to express their points. And it doesn't come on day one. It doesn't come on day. It is a process. It just grows.
Especially if you're an introvert.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of fear that comes with it, because you kind of feel
Self-doubt,
am I going to be not liked anymore? Am I going to cause rifts in the team? Like, you're worried about all of that. Even, is my job safe? Because I've said something that might rock the boat a little bit.
Yeah.
So it's a bit of bravery that comes with it as well.
Yeah.
And I think it's confidence over time.
Yeah.
Do you think it's an introvert thing where it's like, oh, I don't want to say anything stupid, I don't want to rock the boat, do you think it's like an introvert thing, or do you think it's that women should be quiet and polite and ladylike and not speak over men? And because sometimes I think there's a bit of that. I'm more comfortable speaking in a group of women sometimes than I am speaking in a group of men. But I think a lot of women and men have different energies.
Yeah, exactly.
And sometimes it's a bit more nerve-wracking to speak over men.
It's
than
just
it
like,
is.
I think these are like check boxes. First, I'm an introvert, then I'm a woman, then I'm a diverse background. I'm like, oh my god. More stairs. But yes, I do feel I would say I'm a creative person, but an introvert. So I try to portray my creativity by not being there. It's my way of putting it. But with time, I understood if I don't speak out for myself, nobody else will.
Yeah.
Snooze you
No.
lose is what my dad always says. Snooze
Yeah.
you lose. If you don't talk, then
Yeah, exactly.
So you've got to use your opportunity.
Yeah.
But you've also got to do your homework. Don't be too boasty.
Yeah.
Just be humble and know your stuff.
Yeah.
Once you know your stuff, you can't really go wrong, and no one can take that away from you. So,
Yeah. But I think there is a lot to self-promotion though, because a lot of women don't do it.
Yeah.
So men are more likely to go, oh, I secured this deal and that helped the company earn that much and that's why I deserve a promotion.
Yeah.
And we'll just work away in the background doing the exact same thing, but we don't go to our manager and go, so I secured the deal and I got the thing. So I think it's very important for women to get the courage to go, I did this and this was the result, and because of that I helped do that, and this is why I deserve.
yes.
Because I don't think a lot of women actually fight.
Yeah. My best friend and my mentor, he always keeps telling me one thing, and I feel it's important. You doing it, you need to showcase it. You need to publicize. You need.
Absolutely.
It will not only help you to gain confidence about your work, but it will give you a kind of self-fulfillment. Yes, I did it.
Yeah.
And it's not irrespective of which gender you belong to. I understand being women, and as you mentioned, like you want to be the nice one, like a little
Yeah, I think
bitch
we
and
are
stuff like
less
that.
likely to self-promote.
But self-promotion is very important irrespective of your gender orientation.
Yeah.
You should speak out if you have the talent, if you have been working
Yeah.
hard for it. It is your place to speak out. Because if you don't, somebody else will. And you will only lament later that I could have done that. And
Yeah.
that guilt trip is very bad.
I think it also like depends on the environment when
Yeah.
you first start off your job.
That's
So
a
you
good
know
point.
how you were mentioning earlier, like first job you got, like that job where they were telling you like, it's more men oriented, even though it is them. But and then you met this person that taught you everything you know, and you can see that self-confidence now. Like it informs everything that you've done after that situation. I think it very much depends on the first job that you get. So, like speaking up, I wouldn't say I'm introverted, but I'll be more inclined not to speak in a group of people just because it's just
I think
easier.
that's something like a socially introvert, but when
But
you
like-
know somebody, you are like a different. That's
Exactly.
me. That's me.
That's how I am.
Yeah.
But like working with XIO and like working, with my line manager and everyone that I work with, they're very like, speak up, ask your question.
Yeah.
And I always have questions. It's my default.
Yeah.
I need to get very specific what's the word? Very specific instructions.
Yeah.
And when I have a question, I need to get the right answer.
Yeah.
The answer that works, that allows my brain to do the exact thing that it needs to do. So because everyone is very encouraging.
Yeah.
Steven goes, yeah, ask questions. Chris, is always saying ask questions. There's that self-confidence because you know that people would listen to you,
Yeah.
and that informs wherever you go. So if I walk somewhere like 20 years from now and the culture is more like, oh, women shouldn't talk or women shouldn't speak in a tech setting, because this is where I've worked at the beginning of my career, and this is the kind of mentorship that I get, this kind of confidence that I've been
Yeah.
given, it's very unlikely that I would naturally sit still and allow people to speak over me, especially when it's like based on gender. So I think it very much depends on that environment.
Yeah. So I think if you've had a struggle at the beginning, it's harder to
It's
overcome.
hard.
Yeah.
And luckily, you've had a supportive beginning. So if you were to enter a job where you weren't listened as much, you wouldn't tolerate that, I don't think.
Because you know yourself, like you thrive in a situation where you're allowed to speak. And what Shami was saying earlier about like promoting yourself, I think it doesn't even have to be verbally. So right now, whenever I do like I solve like a bug, like a very tiny bug, before going to Steven to say, oh, I need help with something, I write it down.
Yeah.
So I have like a specific journal where I say, oh, today I did so and so.
Yeah.
And it's nice when you go back to it and you read it. You might read that journal in 20 years and find out, it's very simple bugs, something trivia that you solved. But because I know that I did it
Yeah.
by myself, I did it on my own, there's that confidence
Yeah.
to, in a meeting where I have with my line manager.
Exactly.
And I say,
Yeah.
oh, I solved this bug. Oh, I solved so bug.
Yeah.
So I think that also informs the kind of confidence that you
Yeah.
get
Yeah.
because you know that you have it on paper. So even if you
Yeah.
don't remember it, you have it somewhere.
Yeah. Well, one of the things I get my girls to do, because one of my colleagues especially does have a lot of self-doubt, and I'll say, anytime you achieve something, put it in a spreadsheet. So it doesn't matter whether you've organised something or whether you've completed something or learned something new or any little thing you achieve, put it on this sheet, and then anything that you want to learn, as you think of it, put it on the sheet.
Yeah.
And she was very quickly surprised
The list is this
to
one,
learn
isn't it?
just how much she has grown, how much she's achieved. So any of those days where she's full of self-doubt, because something's gone wrong or whatever,
Yeah.
she can look at that list and go, no, actually,
Yeah.
I am worthy of my place here.
Yeah.
Because I think because we work in silence,
Mm-hmm.
nobody knows our achievements,
Exactly.
and not even us, because we doubt them.
Yeah.
But by writing them down, you're absolutely right. There's a big long list, because I did it for myself, and I was like, actually,
Yeah.
I'm not an imposter.
I think one of the great things that my ex-manager did was he used to, the role that we used to do within this one system would be split up. So half the team would do the admin side, the other team would do the execution side, and another team would do the process side. And he said to me one day, let's mix it up a little bit so that everyone gets a taste of the different areas. And what it turned out is that the girls mainly do the admin side and the guys do the execution side.
Yeah.
And when they flipped it around, it was so difficult for the guys to do the admin part. But over time, because it was an autonomous role,
Yeah.
we made it part of the process that everyone has to do this. So then it became an equal team. And I think that's important as well. Some of the things that we do are taken for granted and looked at as minor things, and 9 times out of 10, if the admin's not done, then the
Everything else
work's not
falls
done.
apart.
Do you know what I mean? So
I mean, this kind of thing is like not only in tech, but in real life as well.
real life,
Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely.
But I think we are in that era where we are actually acknowledging it.
Yes.
Like, this is not right. I mean, it's not that if a girl cooks, it's her duty, but a guy cooks, wow. It's like you have a stomach to feed, so both of us can cook. So I think we are in that era where we are actually looking and we are actually talking about it. Because before it was a notion which used to be spoken about, but never spoken on a platform level. Like, you know what? This is not right. This is something. A mother might be telling her son, you should also learn cooking, but it would not be in a stage where it would be spoken out loudly. But I think everything, even in tech, it's we are in that phase where we are into these kind of sessions where we are talking about it.
Yeah.
Isn't it? Like, it's the versatility of ground, and if it is something which is requiring our brain, we are all equal.
Yeah.
There's this saying, like, giving something a name is bringing it to life.
Yes.
So when you don't put a name on something,
Yeah.
we all know that it is happening in our
Yeah.
subconscious,
Yeah.
but because we've not given it a name, nobody is saying it's a thing.
Exactly.
So I've always had a problem with, like, placing gender on
Yeah.
very genderless thing.
Yeah.
So for example, the story I mentioned earlier about changing the switch where the guy goes,
Yes.
oh, you should have been born a boy.
Yeah.
Why do I have to be a boy to change the switch?
Yeah.
Why do I have to be a boy to, play football?
Yeah.
Why do I have to be a girl to wear pink?
Yeah.
We keep putting gender on things that should not have any gender.
Yeah.
So admin roles, for example, why are women more likely to be in admin roles?
Yeah.
Or what if I'm a guy and I want to do admin roles? What happens then? That's
It's weird because I think there's a lot of unconscious bias as well in interviewers.
Yeah.
And in job descriptions.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I think sometimes managers, a guy could come in for an interview for like a personnel manager type, or even like a wage clerk or whatever, and could have all the same qualifications and experience as a female, but the manager might just have that in their head that females are better at admin and choose the female, which I think works in reverse sometimes with tech.
Yeah.
A guy's going to be better at tech. And I think schools as well, well, maybe not now, but when I was growing up, schools did gear women towards admin roles.
Typewriting, keyboards,
Home economics,
food tech.
yeah. So
Embroidery.
women, and when you have your career thing, like I didn't know what I wanted to be when I was at school, but you can guarantee that secretary and admin were the ones that were suggested to me.
Yeah.
And then when I did later, because I had my child and I came out of, I did an admin role for a training scheme. But then when I had my child and I wanted to go back to work, I did one of those sort of personality tests. And they were all like, you should be a scientist. So I went to uni to do astrophysics. But, so it's different when the machine doesn't know who's answering these questions. thought I should be a
People do that sort of
scientist,
stuff.
but school thought I should be an admin. It's so peculiar. I mean, I ended up in admin anyway because, you know.
I think it does a disservice to our planet. Because, like, you have all these men that could excel with making
We have,
clothes.
we
Yeah.
have so many
You
capable
have
people, capable of so many
people,
things,
and
yeah.
you just put them in boxes.
Yeah.
And then it becomes a problem because we're not reaching our utmost potential.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
So
Yeah.
I've always had a problem with putting gender on things. So for example, when I was growing up, I never liked wearing trousers. It was just a thing I just did not. And then people would say, "Oh, you could have been a tomboy if you just liked wearing trousers." Because I would play football, I would listen to rap music. I was always doing those things that you think are geared towards men.
Mm-hmm.
And I just used to wonder, why do I have to
Yeah.
wear trousers? Why do I have to be a tomboy to enjoy playing football?
Yeah, why can't I just enjoy the things I enjoy?
Why can't I just enjoy it? And it also informs so many like other discrimination that people face in society. So if a guy likes wearing pink, for example, they say he's being effeminate.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think it's a lot harder on men who deviate from what's classed as masculinity
Yeah.
than it is for women. Because women have fought for decades to come away from femininity.
Yeah.
Like, we've fought for the right to wear trousers, we've fought for the right to go into work,
Exactly.
we've fought for the right to be educated, to vote. So now, you know, we're seen as, oh yeah, you know, they can vote, they can go to school, they can wear the trousers, they can do whatever.
Yeah.
But if a man wants to wear a skirt, or if a man wants to wear pink, if a man wants to do flower arranging,
It's seen as a problem.
the toxic masculinity hurts men just as much as it hurts women,
Exactly.
you know, and that's why men have really serious mental health problems. Don't talk about it because it's not masculine to talk about it. We really do need to get away from gender roles.
We need to get
We really do.
And gender roles, this is, since we're
Not necessarily gender
Specifically-
roles, so gender ideals.
yeah. I mean, especially since it's a platform for women in tech. Tech is a global platform. So, for example, I'm from India. I moved to a very different country and started working here. So there, I could see the ratio of men and women traveling abroad, working, was still taken as a, oh my god, you're going alone, you're going to start your career in a different country, it will be, how will you manage and stuff like that. But I think people, expats or immigrants who move to a different country are very, very courageous people who can leave their, comfort zones, try to prove their identity in a different country, take up responsibilities, do their jobs, and try to make their own identity. It is difficult, you know.
Yeah.
I can imagine, yeah.
I'm so confident. I'm in a different place, and it's new to me. Okay, fine. I know the language, but again, it's a new place. None of them are people with whom I grew up. They are not my family members.
And-
It's a new thing.
And little different cultural nuances
Yeah.
that you have to
Exactly.
learn.
The weather.
Exactly.
Welcome to England.
So it's like, from a diverse culture, women in tech, and proving yourself. It's like steps.
Yeah.
So I feel when we are at a stage, we have crossed those boundaries and are proving ourselves, like, yes, I can do it. It makes me feel very confident looking at you guys and other women in this tech departments and tech platform doing so well.
Yeah.
And I feel it's improvising. Maybe 10, 20 years down the line, it would be like a very common thing, and I
Yeah.
wish that happens.
Yeah, hopefully this
Yes.
kind of talk will date very quickly.
Yeah.
That would be my wish.
Yeah, mine too. Because when I actually was initially in 2016, when I was doing my visa work, I was like, oh my god, I'm going to be going alone. But now I'm like, if a girl is moving into a different country and she's talking to me, I'll then go. Just have your time,
Do it.
live your life,
Yeah.
prove yourself, and get those wings and fly.
Yeah.
Especially if you come to a company like XIO.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we embrace all of that here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, we're very lucky. Unfortunately, to your point, it still exists.
Yes.
In other companies, it's still rife, and it is what it is, and it's a generational thing. It's a culture thing. So yeah, we're very lucky to be in a company that embraces everybody for who they are,
Yeah.
regardless of
Yeah.
who they are.
I think as well, it's only a minor thing, but I think a lot of the reason why it still permeates is potentially just because if men are writing job specs for vacancies, they'll probably use more masculine language. You know, you have to be driven, you have to be hungry, you have to fast paced and blah. Whereas, so men are more likely to respond to that. And then the cycle goes. But then if females write ones, then you're going to be like communication and, you know, collaboration, and not that these are standard, but they're more likely to use those kind of words. Women are more likely to respond to those. So I think it's very important for companies to proofread across their adverts. So there's not too much masculine, there's not too much feminine, you get nice balanced, especially if you're putting them into AI systems, because those AI systems will then pick up on all these words and match them to CVs, and it's indiscriminate, it's indirectly discriminating. So you have to be very careful with your AIs. So I think that's one takeaway I would give to companies, is be very careful with your recruiting.
And also when they expect driven and to make the one who make the rules, make sure the team follows them and stuff like that, maybe it has a masculine tone. When a woman is undertaking that role, she should not be judged. I hate the term bossy. Why it is like a boss and a bossy? Why?
Yes.
I'm just a boss.
He's assertive, but she's bossy.
Why? We shouldn't.
Again, it comes to putting that gender on genderless things.
It shouldn't be.
If a woman, is driven and fast-paced, and why should she be looked at differently when it's the exact same thing? Because it's more geared towards men.
It is again, a really peculiar concept, because it's the same trait, and it should be treated with the same kind of, weight.
And I think, as I was saying, we are in that platform where we are talking. So, finger crossed, in 10 years' timeline,
hopefully,
these kind of terminologies will be like, they used to talk that in decades. Now it's all the same, and we are all treated same, irrespective of what orientation we fall. We are treated for how we are presenting ourselves, how we are working, our hard work, and stuff like that.
And I think we're very lucky at XIO. We have a very
Well,
level playing field.
Exactly.
And even wider IBM, they are doing a lot of work to redress issues that shouldn't be issues. They're working really hard for that.
Definitely, because I was in a different location, working in a company. I moved to a different part of the country in a very new environment, and there were doubts. I'm like, any person will. I was like thinking, am I taking the right decision? And today, more than a year down the line, I feel myself. I can be myself, and I feel so confident. And XIO plays a very important role in doing that.
You know what you were saying earlier about telling me, like, if somebody else comes to meet you, like, should I travel as a woman? You go like, go for it, do it. It's how I feel now, but like having gone through Code First Skills. So when somebody comes like, oh, Aisha, how did you do it in 4, 5, 6 months? I'm like, just do it. Sign up to Code First Skills. Just go for it. If at the end of the day you feel like you don't want to go into the coding aspect of tech, go for the non-coding aspect of tech. Don't make it seem like, because so in my country, where tech is becoming a thing in Nigeria, and most of the people that are the top, like 1% in the technological space, they're usually men. And when women say, oh, they want to go into tech, they just automatically, by default, say, yeah, you could go into the non-coding aspect of tech.
Already decided.
And it riles me up. I'm hammering on this because when I told a friend of mine, is also a guy, that I wanted to go into tech, it's like, yeah, maybe go for the, statistics, or like the project manager, you could do well. I don't like managing projects, by the way. So this is a very interesting statement that you made to me. But my sister was the one that kept, and my friend, one of my friends also in tech, were the one that kept hammering, like, yeah, just go for it. You could end up not liking it, but do it. Try it out. And you can say in the future that, oh yeah, I've done this, it's just not for me. Not because someone else has said, yeah, just go for the non-coding aspect of tech.
I mean, already if the society or, the surrounding has already created a stereotype, breaking that stereotype and taking your decision, I want to do something different, takes more effort.
It takes more effort.
Like no, you have to challenge yourself as well, because there's a cocoon which is already made. Like, no, you should be doing statistics, you should be going into this certain line. So questioning yourself, why not this, takes more effort, more attention. And
so if we all had advice to give to women in tech, whether it be breaking into it or, being heard in a room, or what kind of advice would you give to other women or other companies that want to be good allies, actually?
I would say that regardless of being a woman or not, just do what you love doing and just make sure you become good at it and learn your craft. Because once you learn your craft, no one can take it away from you.
Yeah,
exactly. Very nice.
You're always going to go to a place where someone is not keen on your idea, doesn't like your idea, doesn't believe in your idea. It's the same concept, it's the same process. You just have to test and prove, and you get better. Technology is that space that is evolving all the time.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's a thing that has to be done regardless.
Yes.
Yeah.
And just believe in yourself.
Yeah.
I would say, irrespective of your diversity, irrespective of which background you come from, which country you come from, always believe in yourself. I know sometimes situation might not be very, supportive, but it is, you can grow yourself as well. You can be your own support system. The first thing is trust in your craft, trust in your talent. You know it, you can do it, and believe in it. And I think anybody, irrespective of their gender, can make their point in the career. And for any other companies, or if they want to create an ally, I would just say everybody has points of views which will actually improve the quality of the work.
Yeah.
So let's not divide person like male, female. They have. We are all for the project, for the work, for the company. So listen to it with a very, very subtle tone, or very uniform tone to it.
Yeah,
and I think in that way would be enough for anybody to grow in a company.
Yeah, so don't compete,
Yes.
collaborate.
Yes, that's it.
Anything?
Yeah, I would say that, especially if you're breaking into tech like me, I would say that don't be afraid to utilize the resources around you.
Yeah.
And that would mean like the people around you. If you're a woman, the women around you, people that have done it before you. Don't be afraid to reach out to people. Utilize the social currency that you have. You'll be surprised by how eager people are to support you, to encourage you. That's what I found anyway. So don't be afraid to utilize that. And for companies, I would say support initiatives that are interested in bringing women into tech or improving women in a particular environment. So for example, Code First Girls, XIO was very interested in bringing more women into tech, and they collaborated with Code First Girls. And yeah, that's what I would say.
Yeah.
Or just join XIO.
Thank you for watching, and come back in future for more Brave Talks.